Welcome to this explainer. Look, if you've been feeling completely financially strained or just mentally exhausted lately, you are absolutely not alone. Modern consumers are so overwhelmed right now. Between the constant temptation of doom spending and that endless, exhausting cycle of retail therapy, it's just so easy to feel drained. Well, today, we're going to take a highly structured look at an incredibly intentional Japanese philosophy that can completely change how we view our resources, our physical space, and our peace of mind.
Okay, let's dive into this. What if the secret to a richer life was actually needing less? Seriously, think about it. There's a culture that has quietly mastered the art of living well with less. Japan teaches us how to live a much better life while spending way less money. And the best part? It achieves this not through harsh deprivation or some painful struggle, but through pure, focused intention.
To truly grasp this, let's look at a pretty stark contrast. Just think about modern society for a second. We're constantly told we need more, right? More income, more possessions, more luxury. But what does all that more actually yield? Usually just deep mental exhaustion. Now contrast that with the Japanese philosophy of simplicity, discipline, and contentment. It leads directly to drastically reduced stress. So today, we're jumping right off that Western hustle culture treadmill to explore this quiet, time-tested approach to living.
We'll break this whole thing down into 3 core pillars. Up first, Pillar 1, controlling the tangible, which focuses on mindful money and minimalist spaces.
Before we can shift our deep internal mindsets, we really have to tackle our immediate physical world, specifically how we budget our money and manage our spaces. So, the very first concept we'll explore is Kakeibo. Invented over a century ago by Japan's first female journalist, it's a traditional budgeting method that isn't just about tracking numbers on an app or, letting some algorithm do the math for you. It's entirely focused on awareness. It literally requires sitting down with a pen and paper and asking yourself really honest questions about how much you actually have, what you want to save, and what you're realistically spending.
To put this into practice, Kakeibo uses 4 very specific expense categories: needs, wants, culture, and the unexpected. By forcing every single expense you make into one of these specific buckets, whether that's a week of groceries, a museum ticket, or a sudden flat tire, your impulse purchases become completely undeniable. You simply can't hide them. This helps you powerfully shift away from that automatic, mindless spending into a space of highly intentional saving.
Next up, we have Danshari. The absolute power of this concept lies in 3 simple verbs: refuse what you don't need, dispose of what you don't use, and detach from what no longer serves you. Minimalism here isn't just some trendy look for an Instagram living room. It is a core, fundamental mindset. It's entirely focused on personal freedom and reducing the things that, quite frankly, essentially own you.
There's this fantastic saying: every item you own takes up space. Not just physical space, but mental space. The more things you have, the more of your vital energy you spend managing them. Less physical clutter leads directly to a much calmer mind. And a calmer mind, well, that leads to better decisions, which naturally means less money spent on things you simply don't need.
This deeply connects to the whole concept of minimalist living spaces. Smaller spaces actually force intentional decisions and, in turn, they create way more freedom. Plus, just think about the reality of scrubbing and maintaining a massive house versus a small, intentional space. When you embrace a smaller physical environment, you obviously lower your bills, but more importantly, you literally buy back the hours of time you previously lost to cleaning, organizing, and managing all that excess clutter.
All right, let's see how this builds as we move to Pillar 2, reframing value. Subtitle here, rethinking perfection and what we keep.
Now that we've cleared out the clutter, let's focus on completely changing our perspective regarding the possessions we actually choose to keep in our lives. Enter Mottainai. This is such a profound concept. It's a deep sense of regret over waste. And we're not just talking financial waste, but the waste of time, resources, and potential. Mottainai heavily discourages throwing things away lightly. It prompts people to repair their clothes and meticulously care for their objects. When we actually treat our belongings this way, it naturally kills that exhausting modern urge to constantly run out and consume more.
Here is the absolute core takeaway for this. True wealth isn't found in endless acquisition, but in meaningful use. I really want to emphasize this. When your appreciation for the items you currently own grows, the emotional void that constantly drives consumerism just naturally shrinks. You completely stop looking for fulfillment in an online shopping cart.
And this brilliantly illustrates our next concept: Wabi-sabi. The definition here is just beautiful. It's the art of finding beauty in imperfection, simplicity, and age. Think of a cracked bowl that has been carefully repaired with gold.
or a beautifully weathered wooden table. Wabi-sabi teaches us that these aren't flaws to be hidden or replaced. They are incredible stories to be celebrated.
Let's do another quick comparison to really cement this. Consumer culture absolutely thrives on perfection, flawless products, and that exhausting cycle of constant yearly upgrades. Wabi-sabi, on the other hand, values character over condition. It fully embraces age and imperfection. Juxtaposing these two shows us the immense financial and emotional peace we can find just by accepting life's inherent imperfection. You literally stop replacing items simply because they aren't quote-unquote new enough.
This brings us to our final pillar today. Pillar 3, the internal shift, purpose over possessions. This deep internal shift begins with Ikigai. It is your reason for waking up in the morning. It's a quiet, highly personal motivation that you uncover slowly over time. Much of our modern spending is highly emotional, right? We buy out of boredom, stress, or just feeling empty. But finding your Ikigai fills that exact void, ensuring you no longer need to try and literally buy your happiness. So how do we find it? Well, it requires asking yourself 4 deeply introspective questions. 1. What do you love? 2. What are you naturally good at? 3. What does the world need from you? And 4. What can you realistically be rewarded for? Navigating these questions shifts our attention away from consuming and buying temporary pleasure, pointing us toward building lasting, profound fulfillment instead.
Next, we have the incredible concept of Shinrin-yoku, or forest bathing. It simply means stepping into nature and allowing yourself to be fully present without any digital distractions. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is that we are constantly told true relaxation requires booking an expensive spa or taking a lavish vacation. But the truth is, the most profound healing available to us is completely free, waiting just outside in nature. And hey, this isn't just a nice thought, it is biologically grounded in hard science. Stepping into nature actively lowers your cortisol levels, radically reduces anxiety, improves your mood, and even physically strengthens your immune system. By simply disconnecting from our glowing screens, we heal the ancient, quiet part of ourselves, and we do it without spending a single dime.
Next is Mottainai. This is the practice of living with deep care, attention, and intention in even the absolute smallest, most mundane actions. Think about the modern rush we live in. Fast food, fast fashion, fast, impulsive decisions. Mottainai stands in complete contrast to all of that. It advocates for slowing down to cook, to clean, and to handle your belongings deliberately, which drastically reduces both physical waste and emotional regret.
Ultimately, a meaningful life doesn't require constant spending. It just requires presence. When we start treating everyday life with Mottainai, with true care, ordinary, everyday moments like washing the dishes or organizing a shelf stop being chores. They actually become deeply grounding and satisfying.
So, the crucial point is a richer, simpler life. You already have enough.
Living a richer, simpler life really isn't about embarking on some drastic path of sacrifice. It's about embracing subtle, consistent mindset shifts. I want to leave you with this final, provocative thought. Which of these Japanese principles will you actually start applying today? Will it be Kakeibo to track your spending, Wabi-sabi to appreciate what you already own, or perhaps Shinrin-yoku to find some much-needed peace outside? Reflect on the tools we've explored in this explainer and take your very first step toward a simpler, wealthier, and far more intentional life.